Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Global Earth Guardians webinar, hosted by the Global Ecovillage Network, or GEN, as we also refer to ourselves, a network of climate visionaries, change makers, and investors for planetary regeneration. I'm Eva Goldfarb. I'm an ecovillager in training and working as the communications lead for GEN, and I will be your host today. I'm going to start by showing my screen and introducing the network shortly for those of you who aren't familiar.
Okay.
So for those of you who are new to the movement, GEN is a growing network of regenerative communities and initiatives that bridge cultures, countries, and continents. Currently, the network is comprised of 5 regions: Casa Latina, Latin America; Genoa, which is Oceania and Asia; Jena, which comprises of the North Americas; Gen Africa, and Gen Europe, as well as a youth branch, Next Gen. We build bridges between policymakers, governments, NGOs, academics, entrepreneurs, activists, community networks, and ecologically minded individuals across the globe to develop strategies for global transition to resilient communities and cultures. For nearly 30 years, GEN has inspired, scaled, and facilitated communities and people from all walks of life to become active participants in the transition to a resilient and regenerative human presence on Earth. We do this through sharing sustainability and climate solutions, educational webinars, online certified courses, partnerships, funded global projects, our impact assessment, and promoting the Ecovillage principles and emerging projects. You can see some of our outreach included on this slide. The network works with 32 Ecovillage principles, which illustrate and distill years of experimentation and learning within the global network, as well as current research on resilience, sustainability, and participatory design. You're also invited to explore our Ecovillage map to find or add a project and soak in the impact of seeing our map dotted with inspiring projects which work to transition to resilient and regenerative human existence. After this webinar, we will invite you to go deeper by visiting us online at ecovillage.org. And now it is with love and gratitude that I pass the word to Amena Ball. She is a trustee and president of the Global Ecovillage Network, the Genoa Council member for our Gen Oceania and Asia branch. She's an Earth leader at Kai Farms, Philippines, a member of the Green Educator community of Green School Bali, and the co-inventor of the Green Unconference, a healer, an earth lover, and a community creator. Without further ado, Amena, I pass the word.
Thank you, Eva. Dear friends, a joyful welcome to all of you from the GEN family. Thank you for joining us today to explore possibilities and partnerships to co-create a healthy, happy, beautiful world that works for all and leaves no one behind. GEN is positioned very uniquely, weaving communities that care for climate, earth, and people, prototyping a deep culture of resilience. After nearly 3 decades of connecting, supporting, educating for regeneration, GEN is entering a new phase, that of global collaborations and partnerships to channel funds to community projects that are supporting the SDGs and Earth regeneration. The Global Earth Guardians Unite is a calling from the future and a prophecy from the past. For us to truly be one family of humanity in service to our Mother Earth. Sensing this could be the rainbow prophecy to restore the health and well-being on our Earth, where all people will unite and create a new world of justice, peace, and freedom. They will reteach the values and the knowledge that has been lost in time, demonstrating how to have wisdom and how unity, harmony, and love is the only way forward. Let's take a deep breath together. Breathing out As in all Gen circles, we will attune together, gently closing our eyes, simply being and breathing together, connecting our inner and outer worlds, past, present, and future. Let's breathe into our hearts, into the heart of the universe and the heart of our Mother Earth. Beginning with gratitude, thanking the divine, thanking all unseen forces and energies, thanking ourselves, our body, our mind, our heart, our soul, for being present here today in wholeness. Thanking our ancestors, the elements, all directions, thanking all planets, the universe, the cosmos. Thanking the power of community of all beings, knowledge, the wisdom, prosperity. Especially thanking our togetherness as one family of humanity. Gently breathing in and breathing out one collective breath. Let's intend today that we are attuning to the way of nature, listening deeply to our own calling and that to the calling of Gaia. Simply and gently connecting to our spiritual center, kindness in our heart. Breathing into our heart, a space of beautiful golden green light. Radiating this light to all and everything around us. Imagine that you are a strong tree with deep roots growing into the earth and the branches into the sky. Your roots and the branches connecting and weaving with life everywhere. Breathing in and breathing out, nourished by the golden light of the sun, the source, the waters of the earth, the air. Affirm that we together are a channel of love and light, truth, peace, prosperity for all in our circle of community. Imagine we are forming a forest of trees, a forest of global earth guardians. As guardians today, we recognize each other as we know that in our growth lies the growth of the whole world. Breathing in and breathing out, connecting to the earth, the sky. With deep stillness, smile in ourselves and silence in our hearts, affirming that today we are walking together, igniting together, gathering together, and sharing forever. Coming back into this time, into this space, into our circle, I will invite Eva.
Welcome back, everyone. Bridging the attunement of our souls with the attunement of today's schedule. I'm going to quickly run us through our timetables and the flow of today, so you know what to expect. And then I will be handing the microphone over to our moderators. So for the next 40 minutes, we will hear from our panelists and moderators on impact investment as a catalyst for planetary regeneration. Following the panel discussion, Amena will share for about 10 minutes the building of the Gen Impact Fund, which she has started to mention. And lastly, in our final 5 minutes, we will create space for the completion of a feedback form, which we've prepared. And in reciprocity for your time, we will be sending access to the ebook, Ecovillages, 1001 Ways to Heal the Planet, to those of you who gift us with their feedback. And then also following the webinar, this designated 1-hour slot, we will open an additional 30 minutes with MARTI, Rob, Amena, and our panelists for anyone who has the availability to stay after and share questions and answers. Are you ready to begin? I will warmly welcome MARTI and Rob from our Council of Elders, who will be our moderators for today's panel discussion. Rob Wheeler has represented the Global Ecovillage Network at the United Nations for the past 20+ years. He lives at the Farm Ecovillage in the USA and serves on the Gen Board of Trustees. MARTI Mueller is a journalist, a social environmental activist who has served on the GEN board for more than a decade as a wisdom keeper and an advisor. Thank you both for being here. I pass you the word.
Thank you, Ava. It's such an honor to be here. This is such a fabulous organization, a wonderful family of committed people who are impeccable in their work and highly committed to healing our planet and to social and environmental regeneration. So we're going to cut right to the chase, and I have the honor to introduce Ross. So Ross Jackson in 1987 co-founded Gaia Trust in Denmark to promote a more sustainable and spiritual world. Gaia Trust has since financed hundreds of sustainability projects in over 40 countries, as well as several green startups, and has supported its two major international NGO initiatives, the Global Ecovillage Network and Gaia Education, for over 30 years. Ross's PhD is in operations research, the science of problem solving. He lives with his wife, Heather, on an organic farm near Copenhagen, where they are converting to an example of regenerative agriculture. And that's one of the strong things in this movement is people are walking their talk. It's not just about words, it's about actions. His new book, The Bad News and the Good News, The Economics of Collapse and the Birth of a Regenerative Society, is a follow-up to Occupy World Street, with a focus on how a post-collapse civilization that lives within nature's limits might look like. Ross will be featured on a webinar organized by Gaia Education on January 11th at 7 p.m. UT. So note that down because I'm sure it'll be very interesting. So Ross, I have the honor of asking you the first question, which is, what inspired you to create and invest in the GEN? And what kind of personal fulfillment has it led to?
Okay. Well, I think going back to my youth, I've always been interested in sort of the future, not only my personal future, but as time went on, more and more the future of the whole planet and of humanity. In my younger days, it was about the population explosion and increasing pollution. And then back in 1972, the book that many of you have probably read or heard of came out called The Limits to Growth, which was a study of the future based on some so-called system dynamics models, which happens to be a part of my professional education. So I was particularly interested. And these models were showing that we were heading for a collapse sometime in the 21st century. In fact, in this particular decade, in the 2020s, it seemed. So this influenced me to a great extent in my thinking. And I was asking myself, how can I possibly contribute something to this situation? I would have very much have liked to have seen change occurring, but the resistance from the established power makers was very, very large. And so I was asking, how can we possibly avoid the collapse which seems to be coming? Then in 1991, a number of people joined Hildur and myself to discuss the strategy for Gaia Trust. And after some discussions, we came up with an interesting conclusion. We concluded that actually we know what the problems are, we know what the solutions are. What we're really missing is implementation. And so looking around, we said, well, who's actually implementing these ideas? And our eyes fell upon the Ecovillage movement. Well, actually, it was not a movement at the time, but there were a number of ecovillages around, and a dozen or so. And we felt this is the place where we should be putting our money, on the people who are actually walking their talk, people who are actually making things, doing things on the ground. So we don't need more papers, we don't need more conferences, we need action. And this was the background for my deciding to invest a great part of Gaia Trust's money and my own time in helping the Ecovillage movement move towards sustainability.
And how did this fulfill you? How did you feel?
Well, I think I think the most important thing for me at least, was the idea that having a sense of purpose in my life, that I was working for the common good and doing something for not just for myself, but for everyone. And this gives a great personal satisfaction, I found, and a sense that there's really a meaning with life, and we're doing something purposeful. That for me was the major result of doing this, and quite satisfying, actually.
Well, thank you, Ross. We're all deeply indebted to your wonderful generosity.
Yeah.
Before I pass the mic to Rob, I just wanted to clarify one thing. We have eco-villages and we have communities, and some of our communities are not eco-villages, but all of the eco-villages are communities. So we talk in general about communities and eco-villages. So it's a wide spectrum in the Gen. Okay, Rob, go for it.
Thank you, Marty, and especially thank you, Ross, not only for your presentation and answers today, but for all of your support over the last 30 years. I have the privilege to be able to introduce Bill Liao now, and would like to say that we will be having each of the 5 panelists give 3-minute response to a first question, and then go a second round, another question with 3 more minutes. So, Bill, you will have 3 minutes to respond. Bill Liao is a Chinese-Australian-Irish entrepreneur, investor, former diplomat, business mentor, author, passionate leader, and speaker with a distinguished record in business development and community activism. He's the co-founder of the Coder Dojo movement and of We Forest. His career in tech and business encompasses 2 unicorn companies and launching the world's first biotech accelerator. He is a general partner of SOSV Venture, a venture capital fund of over $1 billion. Bill is also chair of the new $500 million Kitua fund investing in food as medicine and human health. Bill, the question is, what kind of financial and non-financial returns should be considered when investing in community projects?
Thank you very much, Rob. So I think if you look at investing as a whole, there's this old joke, there's 2 kinds of people, normal people and those who classify anything into 2 kinds. So I'm unfortunately going to have to classify something into 2 kinds. The first kind of investing, let us call it value extraction. There are many, many businesses out there that are designed to extract value from resources or from people or from things. And value extraction businesses are, by their very nature, unsustainable. They may have the clothing sometimes of something that is beautiful or sustainable, but when you look right down at the bottom of it, it's actually value extraction. Every casino in the world is a value extraction business. Unfortunately, there are a lot of so-called environmental investments out there that are also value extraction businesses. In particular, as a tree planter myself, with We Forest has replanted 82 million trees in a completely sustainable way, and we've generated, lifted millions of women out of poverty doing that. We see the rise of this new carbon market, which is turning out to be, by and large, a value extraction market rather than a value creation market. When you plant a tree and you nurture it and you, provide permaculture advice and you provide capability building to the people who are, planting that tree and looking after that tree, and that tree will then look after them as part of their food forest, you're creating value, undoubtedly. And that value can be partially shared via a carbon credit if it's done correctly. But the reality is that there are far too many people wanting carbon credits than there are people who are prepared to create sustainable eco-friendly food forests, working with local people. And so while I can stand behind a We Forest carbon credit, knowing that it is sharing wealth all the way around from value that's being generated, I can't stand behind most carbon credits that are out there. And it comes down to some very simple things too. In a lot of the places that we work, the trees are at threat. If they don't produce income for the local people, then there's a continuous threat that they produce income as charcoal. And I can say with my hand on my heart that in any We Forest village, the village women will cut the nuts off any man who tries to cut their nut tree down. There is a fundamental need to integrate humans and civilization with forestry. In fact, a massive population decrease will only lead to more chaos, not less. So there is an absolute need when you're looking at investing to look more holistically. There are wonderful investments and a lot of money to be made investing in value creation. But you've got to look and see, are you creating value in a way that is holistic and sustainable? And are you a tide that rises all the boats around that? And if
Bill?
you're not, that's a problem.
Well, thank you very much, Bill. That's very insightful. Really appreciate differentiating between extractive and providing real value and wealth. I often like to say at the United Nations, the only way you could create real wealth is through investing and transitioning to a sustainable future. That provides real worth, protecting and restoring the natural environment and everything else that goes along with that. MARTI, your turn.
Yes, and I would say investing in people is really critical to that as well. So now I would like to introduce Mumta Ito. She is a former City of London finance lawyer turned advocate for the rights of nature. She's a trailblazer in the realm of regenerative finance and is heralded as one of Europe's foremost experts on the right of nature. Mumta is a visionary founder of Nature's Rights, a charity dedicated to reshaping legal and policy landscapes. As a UN harmony and nature expert, Mumta is spearheading transformative legislative initiatives, including the groundbreaking UK Rights of Nature and Future Generations Bill initiative in partnership with the UK Green Party and the fundamental EU Charter for the Rights of Nature initiative in partnership with the European Economic and Social Committee. So, Mumta, could you share briefly how Nature's Rights initiatives can benefit communities and how communities can support and benefit the rights of nature?
Thank you, MARTI. Yes, well, leading on from the last discussion about value creation and extraction, it's exactly tackling this very point. It's about mainstreaming and stacking law behind the regenerative solutions. So the rights of nature, for a start, form the foundation of our human right to life and every economic right, because the foundation of life comes from nature. Without nature, we don't exist, our societies don't exist, our communities don't exist, and our economies don't exist. But at the moment, nature is objects, property, and resources in the legal system, which basically lead to this, the driving of this degenerative cycle. It leads to the legalization of economies that are based on infinite growth, agriculture that destroys the earth, energy extraction faster and greater than the earth can replenish herself, and all of the things that lead to this degenerative cycle that ends with extinction. And with the rights of nature, what we're doing is working right at the bottom of that iceberg and changing the relationship that we have with nature in law by recognizing nature as the foundation of human existence. And so as a result, this ends up transforming the entire society on autopilot to produce regenerative results. So in the current model, no matter how much we try and regenerate, as long as the law is stacked around neoliberal macroeconomic policies, we're always going to get the destruction more than the regeneration, and we're going to have society pulling in different directions. With rights of nature, what we're trying to do is to mainstream the regenerative solution so that all of society pulls in the same way to get regenerative results. I encourage communities to start walking the talk, just like we just heard, by starting to adopt nature's rights model, starting to look at, if we were to embed the rights of nature within the DNA of our community, how would that change our actions? Communities could become nature's rights zones, and they could start to proactively push for the rights of nature and push for this integrated recognition that all of our rights and our future generations depend on nature's rights being recognized as the foundation of life.
Thank you, Mumta. That was a lot in a very short time. And I might add one thing, that communities actually create sanctuaries, and we have a number of them within the Gen movement who have created large sanctuaries that have actually been recognized by governments. And that's another way in which the communities can support your rights of nature movement. Okay, Rob, your turn.
I'm happy to be able to introduce John Fullerton. There's a saying that what is important is you put your money where your mouth is. And John has certainly done this with his own life. John is the founder and president of Capital Institute, a recognized new economy thought leader and public speaker. He is an active impact investor through his Level 3 Capital Advisors. Previously, he was a managing director of JP Morgan, where he managed multiple capital markets and derivative businesses around the world. He is a co-founder and director of the holistic ranch management company Grasslands LLC, a director of New Day Farms, Savory Institute, and the New Economy Coalition. John is a trustee of the Vicon Rasmussen Foundation and an advisor to the UNEP Finance Inquiry and Richard Brunson's Business Leaders B Team. If you're looking for someone that's investing in real change in the real world, well, here's John Fullerton to share with us. Please explain briefly what your views are on regenerative finance and share a few examples of regenerative finance projects.
Thanks, Rob. It's great to be with you all in this community. I on the one level, I'm embarrassed that I haven't discovered this great community directly before. And on the other hand, I'm incredibly inspired and encouraged that there are these islands of coherence, as we call them, sprouting up and developing. And certainly this community was early on the path. So it's a privilege to be joining you. Whenever someone asks me to talk about regenerative finance, I sort of ask them to, take a longer journey with me, because I don't think we can even begin to talk about regenerative finance until we talk about what a regenerative economy would look like. And we can't talk about a regenerative economy until we shift the way we see ourselves and our place on this planet, and the shift from, to use the word that's already been used, our reductionist mindset to holistic thinking, holistic seeing, is really the beginning of finding what regenerative finance is all about. And as Bill said, we in finance were trained to extract value. That's the term we use. That's not considered a, something bad to say. We go around saying, so where are you going to extract value? It's what we do. And so the whole way of finance seeing the world has to shift. And so I too was shaken by reading Limits to Growth after I left Wall Street. I always like to say I left Wall Street in 2001, so you can't blame the financial crisis on me, even though I do have a background in derivatives. And limits to growth created this existential question in my mind that's become my life work, which is if exponential growth on a finite planet is in conflict with the laws of physics, how are we going to create prosperity? And my work with the Savory Institute is what inspired my own answer to that question and led me on this journey to regenerative economics, and with the regenerative economics to rethink how finance needs to work. And again, the Savory Institute's work, if you're not familiar with it, is applying holistic decision-making, holistic thinking to the management of the world's grasslands. And it's a longer story than we have time for today, but I was looking out on the living system we call the grasslands with Alan Savory, and learning about how he thought about holistically managing the grasslands in such a way that created value, ecological value, social value, and financial, at least financial sustainability. And the idea came to me, well, if this works on the living system we call the grasslands, why can't it work on the entire living system we call the human economy? Because certainly we want the human economy to be a living system, not a collapsed dead system. And that led me on a, now 2-decade search for what that might look like. And to sort of now drop down to some tangible examples, once one sees how to look at the economy from the very microcellular level in the community at the community scale, all the way up to the global economy. One thing about living systems is the fractal pattern. So what is true at the local ecosystem level needs to be expanded and extended actually all the way to the global level. And I have tried to walk the talk with my own investments. I'm nowhere near the full-time focused investor that Bill is. I've actually spent much more of my time wrestling and thinking with this alternative theory of economics. It's incredible, but economics that rules more than we realize, it's sort of subconsciously, is literally built on a foundation of Newtonian physics, which is as reductionist as it gets. And so I think we need to rebuild an entire economic theory if we're to prosper in the reality of the world ahead. So real quick, 2 examples. One that I'm involved in directly. There's a company called MyLand. If the website is myland.ag, and it's an example of innovation and discovery unlocking potential. The key to the regenerative paradigm, in my way of understanding it, is that it unlocks potential. If we align with how living systems work, we find potential that previously we didn't see. And I believe that's the source of our future prosperity, because the game of extractive growth is over. And MyLand has discovered, the scientists have discovered, that if you take algae off of a farm soil, grow it in a lab, and then grow it exponentially and feed it back onto the farm, the algae serves as food for soil. And you can regenerate dead, degraded soil in a matter of months, and certainly in a couple years. And all of the good things that flow from healthy soil, ranging from water retention to carbon sequestration to healthy food, et cetera. And what we've discovered is that the need for inputs, fertilizer inputs, immediately goes away, because healthy soil unlocks the natural fertility of soil. It's a longer story,
John,
but that's just one project I'm involved in. But I want to quickly just mention another example.
John, well,
Yep.
would you mind saving it for the second round of questions?
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. No, that's great. The examples are beautiful, perfect. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, this is just the beginning, by the way. We're touching on all kinds of really interesting projects, and I'm sure this is going to lead to other webinars where we can expand some of the examples. and have a better understanding of what some of the very practical things we can do will be. So now I'd like to introduce Thomas Legrand, who has a PhD in economics and is a sustainability expert, social scientist, and wisdom seeker. As the lead technical advisor for the UNDP's Conscious Food System Alliance, he focuses on forest conservation, climate change, sustainable finance, and leadership. And I noticed in his longer bio something I thought was really relevant. Earlier in his career, Thomas worked as a microfinance consultant and program specialist, and as a coordinator of the Forest Investment Program, a pilot program for climate resilience with the African Development Bank. So, Thomas is author of Politics of Being. He invites a reevaluation of development paradigms. He resides near Plum Village in France, where he integrates mindfulness into his work as a speaker and a trainer. So, Thomas, you are leading the Conscious Food Systems Alliance, an initiative convened by the UNDP, focusing on inner transformation for regenerative food systems. How can investors support this agenda?
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Glad to be with you. Indeed, we consider the Global Ecovillage Network an important partner for this work on our Conscious Food Systems Alliance, convened by UNDP, and which starts from the recognition that regenerative food systems are associated with a different worldview, mindsets, values, beliefs, whatever we call it. And that we have decided to focus on this agenda, the inner dimension of regeneration, as a complementary approach to be integrated in our efforts. So it's a very new field. We are partnering also, for example, with the inner development goals that are helping us to put that on the map of decision makers and investors. And we were happy to see that more recognition. But it's still very new for donors. So that's a question. We will be holding a donors roundtable on inner change for a just and regenerative future next year in April to explore, discuss, can we have a shared vision among donors about on this issue, on this theory of change? What are the barriers? What are the enabling conditions? And can we develop together a roadmap to further donors' engagement and collaboration on this agenda? So we ourselves in the Conscious Food Systems Alliance, we have been launched publicly a year ago after 2 years of co-creation with partners, and we have developed strategic plans with financing needs, so which can give an ideas about what are the different ways through which investors can invest in that agenda. Our first priority is to empower our members so that they can really make happen this conscious food, bring this conscious food agenda into their work in their own context and environment. One of the ways to do that is that we have developed together with our partner, the Inner Green Deal, a conscious food systems leadership curriculum, and it's based on the inner development goals, being, thinking, relating, collaborating, and acting, and looking, what are the how we can develop these transformative qualities and skills, and what does it mean? What do they mean in the context of our work on food systems? So just to give some examples, and obviously, we are a community of practice and learning, so we are running different events online and some on site. The other aspects that through which we can invest in that agenda is that we have set up a conscious food incubator. We had a first call for proposal this year, and we didn't expect, but we received 170 proposals, but we only had money for four proposals at the moment. So that's something we want to develop, maybe through a slightly different format, maybe to be more in touch, in co-creating with our partners the projects that they could then submit to this incubator. And we are also discussing, if we can run this outside UNDP with a strategic partner. The third priority we have defined with our members, beyond empowering our members and implementation, is to establish the role of consciousness for food systems transformation. So we want to grow that alternative narrative, and in particular through we have a project of a conscious food conversation with a podcast and a bit more multimedia. And the whole research piece is very important. I mean, and we probably find that a bottleneck to attract more investors in that field is the need for more evidence, case studies, etc. So and to understand better the impact on something that is as intangible as our consciousness or values, etc. So there is some need on research on that part. And we have also developed a monitoring, evaluation, and learning framework to start paving the way for this kind of research.
Thank you very much, Thomas. I see that we're running a little bit behind, so I would like to encourage all of our panelists in the second round to stick closer to 2 minutes rather than 3-minute responses to the questions. I know that many of you have events and activities coming up with courses, webinars. If you would like to put that in the chat, that would be wonderful. Give a quick mention if you want during your 2 minutes. And thank you so much for each of you for your insightful contributions. MARTI, go ahead.
Okay, everybody take one great big deep breath. And let's go into the second round of questions. So this is for Ross. How do you envision the need for future investment areas for community projects?
Well, my thinking is very much based on the idea that it looks very much like we're heading for some form of collapse. And therefore, I think the kinds of investments that ecovillages should be making should be based on the probability that we may be facing power shortages, food shortages, and so forth. And so one thing I think we should invest in is getting more off-grid so that we're more independent of what may happen in terms of power supply. Another interesting or important aspect, I would say, is food production. Once again, we may find ourselves not having access to the normal sources of food, and we may be more and more reliant on what we can produce ourselves. And any other kinds of resilience against the extreme weather would also be an important investment. Those are the 3 things I would suggest as having high priority.
And all of these things can be effectively done within our communities: gardening, alternative energy, food production. Communities are a good source for doing experimentation to become really autonomous.
I would also add, if I may, just in terms of energy, one of the things I expect to see more of in the future is producing ethanol on a local basis from local sugar sources, and using the resulting ethanol for heating, for electricity, and for fuel. And this is a very important source of energy for the coming future. That's what I suspect.
The next question is for Bill Liao. Through my time at the United Nations, I have seen often many companies put forward proposals that are not truly sustainable or regenerative in nature. But yet you've managed, Bill, to find many innovative companies that are doing very incredibly helpful activities. So the question is, how do investors navigate too good to be true, or get rich quick, or quick fixes for environmental problems? How do we find the ones that have real worth?
So as a VC investor, we look at the fastest possible technologies and the fastest possible ways to scale them. It's not quick. It's never quick. the most powerful interventions in the world technologically take lots of time. So if somebody is promising you that it's quick, it's just not true. And if your capital needs to come back to you quickly, don't invest in innovation like that, because it's a very high chance you'll lose it. I have spent many years evaluating deep technology. And honestly, on an individual basis, it's almost impossible to tell. We have a couple of hundred people sorting through thousands of applicants every year. So one of the ways, and this may sound self-serving, but one of the ways to invest is to invest in our fund. Our SOSV Fund 5 is open for investment because that's what we do. And there are other good funds out there. All the Article 9 funds that are out there, a good few of them are doing the same sort of deep evaluation. But if someone says to you, hey, I've got a quick fix and you'll make money quickly, it's a lie. It's just a straight up lie. And more likely even a Ponzi scheme. The people who sell quick fixes, I've never met one who wasn't just quickly lining their own pockets. And it drives me mental. The other thing is, ask, does it break the laws of physics? I'll tell you something about physics. Trees make clouds because they release tiny microorganisms into the atmosphere. If we increase cloud cover by 2% around the equator, we end global warming for 1,000 years. That's science, but it's not a quick fix. It's a slow, gentle fix, but it's a fix nonetheless.
Thank you very much, Bill.
That is really inspirational to think about. Mumta, what are your thoughts on engaging investors in viable models that protect nature's rights?
Okay, so if I can ask Eva to show the screenshot, because I think a picture shows. So this is a model that we developed for the European Economic and Social Committee towards fundamental EU Charter for the Rights of Nature. And I feel it's applicable in communities and businesses for investors. So I would urge to move from the model on the left, the current sustainability model, where people, planet, and profit are independent circles in adversarial relationship to each other, more towards the model on the right, where you have economic rights in service of human rights, in service of nature's rights, all within the planetary boundaries. And I would feel that this model is aligned with regeneration. I would encourage investors to think more about long-term decision-making, and that's what this model fosters, long-term decision-making, to fund systemic solutions, solutions that drive systemic change, and not to look for quick returns like we've already heard, but instead to look at fostering a thriving future for all life on Earth, because a quick buck now at the expense of our future is really a zero-sum game for everyone. So basically that's it in a nutshell.
And we can see it very well in this chart as well. Huh? Thank you, Mumta.
So, John, both of our last two speakers have referred to the importance of nature and how we deal with nature. A part of that has to do with values and principles. Many people don't know, from the Earth Summit Conference 1992, the Rio Principles spelled out all the different ways that humanity needs to transition to a sustainable future based on fundamental values and principles. So the question for you is, what values and principles are needed at the community level to align our financial systems with the emergence of regenerative economies?
Thanks. So I'll be concise this time. I became kind of obsessed with getting clear on first principles in my own search, and I'll put in the chat when I finish. I've developed a set of 8 principles that are derived from my study of living system science, and I think I use the term principles in the sense of first principles or qualities, descriptive qualities of how life works. And I believe that these apply to all living systems. So they apply literally to our own bodies. They apply in our own families. They apply to our own communities. They apply to any company. They apply to an ecosystem of companies, and they apply all the way up to the global economy. And in studying this, it turns out they actually can be found describing not only how life on the planet works, Gaia herself, but all the way extending out to the entire universe, which is mind-blowing. So I'll put those in. Those are not like the right principles. There's no absolute truth here. These are just one person's best effort to describe the patterns and tendencies of how living systems work. But I think as a fundamental place to begin, as we think about what to do and how to act, getting clear on first principles is the beginning of it. So I'll put my thoughts on that there. The last comment I would make is that this is quite distinct from human values, and the intersection of how life works, human and non-human, versus what human values are, is something we often conflate with each other. And it turns out human values are not shared as much as we might like. I suspect everyone on this call shares human values that relate to things like the sanctity of life and honoring nature, but different people have different values. And my hope is that in the future, we can have debates and arguments and fights that are human values driven, but all around how to align our economies with how life works.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Marty.
Okay, so Thomas, there's a quote that you said, and I'd like to just read it. The politics of being aims at aligning our institutions with our true reason to be here on Earth, becoming who we are, the best and most complete version of ourselves. So my question to you is, how can stakeholders contribute to raising awareness about the proposed transformations that are needed?
Thank you very much. So what I've come to recognize through this different work with my book, Politics of Being, from which this quote is taken, and the Conscious Food Systems Alliance, convened by UNDP, is that our work is not only to give the learning, the language, the tools that we need to work on this inner dimension, but also in particular the inspiration and the confidence for members to step up and to step in this agenda, talking about consciousness, inner transformation, even spirituality, wisdom. I really think our job is really to build that bridge. By doing that, we are empowering other members to feel that it is possible. And what we have found with UNDP is that, coming from a UN agency brings a lot of legitimacy and help break these taboos. I've been with Politics of Being, there's been a journey of 10 years of developing that proposal, and it comes of my recognition as an environmentalist that there is little we can achieve as part of the current development paradigm focusing on having an economic growth. And so what we really need is that profound reorientation of our lives, not only at the individual level, but also at the collective level. And I think nature's rights are very much part of this being agenda. It applies to all being. And I think that's, the kind of very profound discussion to acknowledge that, we are in a civilizational crisis and we are called to evolve culturally, I would even argue spiritually. And there's a very practical way to do that. So my work has been to show the science, to develop that reflection, and to show that it's both a very deep perspective, but also very concrete about what can be done in many sectors to foster that transition towards a more being culture, in education, health, justice, governance, economy, etc., etc.
Thank you, Thomas. And I might just add that in many of our communities, especially in the Gen and the intentional communities, there's a strong spiritual presence of sorts, and an attempt to have a really value, a value strength to seeing that there's a holistic way of looking at these things, and that it really is systemic in some respect. So some of our ecologists are already really doing this, and it's very inspiring.
So we have one final question. Amena, are you ready for your presentation? Just 1 minute response, a popcorn style. Here the question, we'll go right very quickly through. So the question that we have is, what investments do you recommend to support a transition to a regenerative economy and society? And I will call the next speaker right away. Go ahead, Ross. Again, what investments do you recommend to support a transition to a regenerative economy and society?
If I was just to choose one, and that's what I will do, I would say that one of the most important things we have to do is to reform our agricultural policies. Industrial agriculture is killing the planet. We've lost over 1/3 of all the topsoil, and we can risk losing another two-thirds of it, the final 2/3, in another 50, 60 years, according to several studies. So that would be my recommendation, to focus on reforming the agricultural system.
And Bill Liao, what do you recommend to support a transition?
I'm going to say something very controversial. Invest in Starlink. You look at the war in Ukraine, the one thing that has allowed them to keep communicating is Starlink dishes. And frankly, we need this kind of communication. We need the enlightenment of the internet. You know, every time communication has improved, there has been improvement in enlightenment to some degree. And you can't have a global network without infrastructure. And the only infrastructure I know that could survive a collapse is Starlink. And plus, net, it has the lowest environmental footprint of anything in terms of communications.
Oh. And Mumta, your thoughts on the question?
I'm sorry, I got distracted responding to a panelist. Sorry, please repeat the question to me.
What investments do you recommend to support a transition to a regenerative economy and society?
What investments? Well, it depends whether you are coming from investment in the sense of financial investment seeking a financial return, or whether we're speaking to philanthropists in terms of philanthropic investment. I would suggest that these two types of investment come together so that we start to fund many different types of ventures that can drive systemic changes that work at the bottom of the iceberg rather than just on crisis management and adaptation. So I would say anything that's businesses that are more towards the value creation that we spoke about, rather than working on extractive principles, to really embed this in investment decisions, and also to finance initiatives that drive legislative changes for philanthropists, because philanthropists don't like to invest in legislative changes, but this is a massive lever of power and a way of mainstreaming and scaling up regeneration by stacking law behind regenerative solutions. So I would urge both of these models to think about how can we drive systemic change at a deeper level.
Thank you, Mumta. And John?
I too will try to be provocative. The most important thing I would propose we need to invest in is education. We have been trained to think in a reductionist way. We have been trained to think about problem solving, and the problems we're trying to solve are really the symptoms of much deeper problems. So if I could wave my magic wand, we would re-educate the Western world to holistic thinking and holistic decision-making, and shift from trying to solve problems to creating the conditions for health. And that would unlock all kinds of prosperity. And I happen to run a course on regenerative economics. If you're intrigued to learn more about that, I put a link in the post in the chat. So there's my self-serving, Bill.
And
I
Tom,
have to say, I violently disagree that education is the answer. It's learning that's the answer.
Better said. Better said. Unlearning and then learning.
Unlearning and relearning, fantastic. Education, bad model, stop it.
Yeah, bad word. Sorry, my bad.
That's where Coda Dojo comes from. It's for getting kids to be able to learn.
Yeah.
So now we will hear from Thomas and then a short presentation from Amena. And after we do that, the pledge time, and then we will go on to question and answer. People are welcome to post things in the chat then as well. So go ahead, Thomas.
On this question, I mean, I would build on the previous answers to say, yeah, learning, I would say inner transformation in a way that is integrated to our regenerative efforts. I personally think what's alive also with me is also to have a kind of civil service for young people where they will be, developing an ethics of care to do their part for social environmental issues while going through, inner work, deep conversations, etc. throughout the year. I think that can be very transformative for young people, and bring the kind of new leaders we really need.
so I would say thank you very much, panelists. You've been incredibly enlightening, practical at the same time, a lot of wisdom.
It's an
We'll-
honor.
So Amena, it's your turn to share, please.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everyone. That was a lot of deep conversation. Before I share a bit about the Gen Impact Fund, maybe we could to just stretch a bit, inspired by Bill, who continues to walk. Yeah, smile. Let's breathe in and breathe out and just trust that whatever we need to remember is with us now. And thank you for your patience. I'm going to take you through a short presentation. I'll do a quick screen share. So everybody can see my screen?
Yes.
So okay, super. So we are circling back to the impulse of this webinar, the Gen Impact Fund. As some of you might know, that Gen is going through a transition as our founder and father, Ross Jackson and Gaia Trust, our main funding channel is now closing and moving on to their next potential. So we at Gen decided to put our minds together and reach out to higher creativity to see how can we continue this good work that was founded about 3 decades ago. So the Gen Impact Fund is an invitation of co-creation with the Global Earth Guardians, which some of you or all of you and a lot from the future will be part of. Sorry. So just remembering Gen's mission, and Gen's mission currently is to innovate, catalyze, educate, and advocate, enable creating replicable community-based prototypes for a resilient regenerative world in global partnerships. Looking at the Gen ecosystem framework thus far, we've seen that Gen scale varies from eco-citizens, eco-projects, eco-schools, eco-communities, eco-villages, neighborhoods, eco-cities to eco-regions. And going forward, our global team of experts and educators, we feel that we are ready as a community to now create more models that are scalable, resilient, and regenerative, especially deepening our relations, widening our reach, and impacting policy. Over the last few decades, we've seen that GEN has had deep impact on supporting the Sustainable Development Goals, empowering communities for climate care, innovation, and experimentation for carbon neutral living, adaptation, and mitigation. And as Daniel had said, it is, participating with low carbon footprint and high lifestyle. Going into the new phase of GEN 2024 and beyond, our call is really a calling to build alliances across all divides, creating partnerships for the global goals, leveraging scale and involving all stakeholders, and especially sharing and scaling GEN's RDAs, which are our regenerative development aims, which came out of our inquiry with the Sustainable Development Goals. And as a GEN community, we wanted to go beyond sustainability into regeneration, and we have prototyped our own RDAs, which we will be very happy to share with this community here and develop projects of impact around it. So creating the GEN Impact Fund is a call for supporting communities with the generosity and trust of the Global Earth Guardians. We, the GEN family, invite you to embark on a graceful journey as a Global Earth Guardian, honoring Mother Earth's abundance with reciprocity, prosperity for all, reaching our highest potential. Our intention is to raise $5 million over a period of time. And as we all have heard, our panelists, that we believe that this is for the long term. It's really like planting a tree in one generation and giving it as a gift to the generations to come. So how can you become a Global Earth Guardian? You can continue to support us today and onwards by pledging, partnering, contributing, collaborating with diverse capital possibilities. We envision different categories in which you can support us, which could be philanthropic support, individual donors, impact assessment, gift your skills, thought leadership, joining the GEN Startup Leaders Program. Please connect with us after the webinar so that you can know more about the value creation propositions for each category and how we can co-create this for you so that it can be a win-win-win for all. So as we see it today, and this is a generative process, and then it's still emerging, the GEN Impact Fund will be a blended fund. As Mumta was telling us, that's the way we should really be looking at the future of investing, and a lot of other people are already co-creating these, and there are lots in the world, as Bill mentioned, and Bill's very successful fund that he supports. So the GEN Impact Fund will be a blended finance through philanthropists and high net worth individuals, social impact investors, grants, corporate social responsibility funds, and small scale donors. And currently we wish to raise 5 million. The distribution of the funds, the structure that we have co-created thus far, we wish to give 10% to outreach and empowerment within the GEN communities, 30% to scale our current projects and new projects, and 60% of the fund will go to the Global Earth Guardian Collective. So the 10% will be used for outreach empowerment, which will be about $500,000. This will go towards GEN Media, building our community and Ecovillage stories, articles and podcasts, videos, interactive webinars, and documentaries. Creating multilingual content for global outreach, creating personalized membership programs, upgrading our website, our GEN map, our solutions library, having funds for social media marketing, and we will be putting capital towards our annual summits and our awards. 30% of the funds will go to scale our current and new projects. Some of our current projects will be the Gen Education and Gen Consultancy. We wish to expand our store into a larger marketplace where we can invite more communities and eco-villages to share their services and products. We want to also scale our Gen Impact Assessment, which is an ongoing project, our Youth in Action project, Region for All, and our Resilience Tool Tracking. More information on these projects will be available, and you can contact us after this webinar if you're interested in engaging with it in any way. Our new projects that we envision with great excitement is the Gen Travel project for promoting community stay and learning journeys, where we will be connecting communities and people from big cities and places could go and live and learn in these eco-villages and communities. And another platform that we want to develop is the Gen Network platform. This is to streamline community operations, collaborations, and communications. And last but not the least, we wish to develop Gen bioregional learning and demonstration experience centers. And this would be in collaborations with eco-villages in each continent or each of our regions. And these eco-villages or communities will further engage with more communities to spread the work that we've already seeded over the last 30 years. Finally, 60% of the funding goes towards the Global Earth Guardian Collective, which will be about 3 million. And this will be to support all projects aligned with the SDGs and GEN's regenerative development aims. Some of the projects that we have envisioned through our creativity thus far is a tech and AI platform for all regeneration collaboration work. We would like to partner with impact providers to measure tangible and intangible impact and allow community to get credits and attract investments. As the Gen community, we have realized that a lot of the impact work that's been done is very quantitative, and it seems that investors are very interested in having qualitative data to know which is the best investment to make in communities. So this project is an impulse to really collaborate at global scale so that communities can be trained to measure impact or supported to do. We also want to partner with high-impact eco-restoration projects where we can continue to restore land and also to create policies that take us closer towards forms of agriculture and food growing that creates more food sovereignty and security for the future. And lastly, we invite your ideas. As this Global Earth Guardian Fund is envisioned as a collective, we are welcoming people who would like to be part of it and co-create it with us. Finally, please join the community of practice of Global Earth Guardians. It will be a place where we'll come together and we will explore our creativity and practices where we can impact 1 million lives together. We will be sharing a form in our chat, which we request you to fill in before you leave today so that we can continue this conversation offline and meet often to continue to empower the Global Earth Guardians Unite program from the Global Ecovillage Network. So thank you all for your patience and your deep focus for being here with us and all your heart. I would like to end by a quote which says, "An awakened mind is essential and attainable for everyone. An awakened heart is the seat of unity with all life." So thank you for coming here with your wholeness and for being with us and listening to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Amena, that was a beautiful way to end things. I feel nothing is left to be said. We have left the feedback form in the chat for anyone who has the inspiration and the time. We express our gratitude in advance, and we will be staying on for an additional 15 minutes to go through questions and answers with the panelists, and invite anyone that has a question to either raise their hand or leave it in the chat. And I see Jonas first with a hand up.
Thank you, Eva, and thank you, Amena, for this beautiful presentation. Also, thank you to everyone that is here in the audience. I want to encourage everyone here following this webinar to explore our website. I'm a Global Ecovillage Network trustee, and our organization is really going through a critical transition, and we had an incredible impact over the last decades. But right now we need funding. We need additional contributions, donation, partnership to move forward. And so I would like really to welcome you to engage with us, to schedule one-on-one calls to understand what's the situation. And we would like to walk you through our projects and our funding needs. So I would like to maybe ask this to Amena. Would you like to share with us how people can already donate if they want to do so today after the webinar?
Thank you, Jonas. Yeah, I think it's Ajay and Eva who are taking care of that. Maybe they could respond to that.
We always welcome donations online. I'm happy to share the link in the chat. Thank you, Jonas, and I welcome Imran with your question.
Hello, everyone. I'm a PhD student, and I've read about a lot of the people here, and it's really nice to see them. How do they actually look like? And I'd like to know how can I become a part of Gen in any form? As I saw in the presentation that there are startup leader programs, gift skills, youth in action, Gen travel. Or if there are more, I'd like to become part of that. Yeah, to learn more. Secondly, I'm in Malaysia, and so is there any way to collaborate with my university and Gen? I just want to propose it to my university because I'm very much into eco villages, and unfortunately, I'm the only student in the entire university who's doing eco villages. Yeah, so that would be great if I can be part of Gen in any way. Yeah.
Stay strong.
Thank you.
You're not alone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for expressing your interest. As a gateway, I'm going to put my email in the chat and we can talk into what areas you would like to dive deeper in. We really have many ways to get support. At the moment, a lot of it is voluntary. And when you mention your university, we do have a research working group that works a lot with universities. So I will connect you with Thaisa as well, who's unfortunately not here to give you more information, but she can set up a call and bring you into this group. This sounds like probably the best first step for you.
And Imran, I might recommend too that you become part of Oceania.
Yes.
The Asian network. There are a lot of wonderful, beautiful young people who are doing incredible work out there.
As beautiful as me? Just kidding.
As beautiful as you. But you are very beautiful.
So where is the email address? You're going to be sharing with me later or now?
I'm doing it both now. I'm going to let Rob go ahead and ask his question and follow up in the chat. Thank you so much for your hand.
Thank you, Eva. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank AJ Sanjani. AJ is the one that really put this program together today. I have spent most of the last 2 or 3 weeks with AJ in Mumbai at COP28, the Climate Summit Conference. He's a tireless, dedicated worker, and I just really appreciate what he's done for Gen over the past several months. Thank you, AJ, for all your contributions.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, AJ.
Please forgive me if I do not pronounce your name correctly, but Fullerton, take the microphone.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fullerton from Nigeria. I'm the founder of Initiative for Climate Change and Renewable Energy Advocacy. I've been looking out to meet all to these wonderful people for some days now, because I've always been sent reminder about this meeting. And it's wonderful to meet people that really love the earth, that really want to impact the earth, and has been doing everything in decades to make sure that they keep the earth good and habitable for all of us. I just want to ask just a question that how can a non-governmental in Africa here can also collaborate or work with GEN in execution of restoration or climate change action projects? I dropped a documentary concerning some of the parts here in Nigeria, whereby we're having desertification coming already, degraded land, and these are some other climate actions we carrying out in my organization. So I want to know if there's a way our organization can also be part of the GEN family, and what are those and what is required. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. One very easy way to become part of the GEN family is to add your project to our Ecovillage map. Also, as MARTI suggested, getting involved on the regional level is the best way to feel held by the GEN family. GEN Africa the involvement has been lower than usual for the past years due to many complications. And if you want to, again, reach out to me, I can try to connect you directly to someone that I know is more active, so you can plug in. And if you have any resources to share, you mentioned a documentary, we welcome them on our solutions library. Once you have registered your project, you can upload your own resources, and those are available to the public. I will also share that in the chat.
Okay, how can I do that, please? I can upload those resources and those maybe my publications and articles. Where can I do that? Can you, sorry?
Yeah,
how can I do that to send those things through with the contact person I can get across to, please?
I will send in the chat, and you can also just email me if you forget or aren't able to download it in time, at eva.goldfarb@ecovillage.org.
Okay, thank you so much.
And I will follow up. I welcome Panjak as well.
Yeah, bye.
Or Marti, do you have a comment?
No, other than that, we still have a very, very strong network in Senegal.
Yes.
That Man Olipam, is responsible for, and it would be great to reach out to him. They twin with Damanhur in Italy, and they're doing incredible work. And it's all about not reinventing the wheel, being able to be supportive of each other.
Hi, this is Pankaj from India, and I'm glad I'm being part of this evening. A lot of enlightening conversations, and at the same time, a lot of intrigue. Right now I have a couple of things to share. One is I'm developing an eco village in central India, and I'm looking for support and would want to kind of join the larger GEN family to make it happen. So that's one, and I would request people present here to let me know what could be my point of contact for that kind of a project. That's one. The other thing is, do you maintain a sort of a seat or a desk in India on ground where I can be more involved and contribute to the GEN activities in a larger kind of a thing? That's one. And lastly, how do I engage with the panelists? Because each of them has provoked certain kind of thoughts in me, which would require ongoing exchange, sort of to exchange my own views over what they might have shared and those kind of things. So yeah, these are my couple of requests.
Thank you very much. Amena, would you like to speak to the Indian connection?
Sure, Eva, thank you. Yes, Pankaj, thank you for being inspired. We are in the process currently of forming the GEN India team and the office. Ajay works out of Oroville. He has a small team there that's supporting GEN International. And in the new year, we are looking at starting the GEN India network and also the next GEN India. So we will be in touch with you, and happy to have you with us to support our work.
Thank you. Just one small thing. Can Ajay put in his contact somewhere so I can like get in touch with him post this meeting?
Sure.
Yes, AJ, I ask you to add your contact to the chat, and I welcome Lao Lin. Please bring your question.
Hi, greetings everyone. It's the morning here. My mom just joined me. We are greeting everyone from Huehuecoyotl Ecovillage here in Mexico. Hello, hello. It's great to see some familiar faces. Hi, Rob. Really grateful for this discussion. It's so inspiring and just so aligned with everything that we've been working on here in Huehuecoyotl, because as it seems like it's a global moment of major transition, we are also experiencing a lot of transition here in Huehue, where we just lost two of our original co-founders and big pillars. And now, as the only second generation person representing, I've been working on a project for the last 2 years to transform one of the major houses here and the rest of the Ecovillage into a regenerative learning center. And so all of these things that you presented in this presentation for the, what was it called, the Gen Impact Fund, or the co-creation of the Global Earth Guardians, is exactly what we've been doing here to actually become that showcase and bring this 42 years of eco-village living experience into a new level. And so how do we continue to create value? How do we continue to invest not only in our eco-village, but in our local communities and our bioregion? And how do we continue to create these models to co-inspire others and continue to strengthen our alliances and our networks? So thank you so much for all the resources. I will be getting in touch with many of you. So just wait to hear from me, and happy to share what we've been working on. And yeah, just wanna thank everyone for all the work that you're doing in your own countries and locations.
Thank you, Lauren. And we are very deeply indebted to our dear brother who just passed. And reach out to Casa Latina, to you, Luca, to Jennifer, to Beatrice. There are so many really active people in Latin America and in Central America. There'll be a lot of support for what you're doing. And Alberto Roots, who just passed last week, was an elder, a Gen elder, and one of the real incredible pillars of this entire movement. And we'll never forget him. He's embedded in our hearts, embedded in our hearts. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to be there for you as well.
Thank you so much, MARTI. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. I see Rob has a hand up, and I know
Thank you.
for
I
one.
just wanted to share that over the past year and a half, Jen has had a project focusing on climate resiliency in our local communities. We have 20 participating eco-villages from around the world. One of those is Huehuecoyotl with Lalin from Mexico. And I represent the farm on our climate resiliency team here in Tennessee in the United States. So we recently heard word that our second phase of our project has received funding for the next 2 years. So many of these communities will be going forward in implementation and a sharing phase. So anyone that's interested in learning about climate resiliency and what can be done on the ground in order to move towards that and to achieve it is welcome to stay in touch with Jen and to participate in our ongoing activities and training programs, etc. So more about that in the future. Thank you. And it has been such a wonderful experience to participate with Ecovillage members and community members from around the world through these processes. It's one of the ways that Jen contributes to the world, bringing together change makers from all over the world to share personal experiences in our own communities.
Thank you, Rob. I see a request in the chat for a group photo. I'm going to welcome David to ask his question, and then anyone who is still here, I'm happy to let you take a photo, Imran. We also will send out the recording, so you're welcome to take a screenshot from that. But David, the microphone is yours if you have a question for one of our moderators or panelists. And you are muted if you're trying to talk. Okay, maybe as we wait for David, Imran, if you wanted to take a photo, I welcome it. If anyone else would not like to be included in the photo, please turn off your camera. For anyone who would like to be included, please turn on your camera. And feel free to count us down. Thank you, everyone.
And I would like to also just thank AJ's team, Lakshmi, Madhu, and all the people from behind the scenes who have contributed so much to making this a success and beautiful event. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, MARTI. We welcome it.
Thank you all. David, if you're able to write your question in the chat, we will take it there. Otherwise, any last burning voices, we would love to hear from you.
I would like to thank our panelists again for joining us today. I think all of your valuable contributions have been very much appreciated. It's certainly been a learning journey for me to read your various articles and writings and prepare for today's event, and feel like you're a part of our community that's very much appreciated and valued.
Thank you, Rob. Continuing with some gratitude from the chat, we have a thank you to MARTI, a thank you from Tony, a special thanks to Amena for her visionary leadership in bringing AJ and team. Thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you, Eva and Gen International and all the staff for supporting and co-creating. I'm just leaving a message in the chat. It is a message that continues to inspire me. It was shared by Ross Jackson many years ago in one of his interviews. And I keep that as something that I read every day, and I keep coming back to it. And I know that the future is as he felt it and envisioned it. So Ross, thank you once again. For your trust and leadership, and everybody here. And we are truly co-creating the Rainbow Tribe. Once again, beautiful gathering. Thank you.